It's really quiet first thing, but there's always a lot to clean. Sometimes it's a bit of a mess and there's rubbish scattered around. I clean the footpath, the street furniture, the bins and remove graffiti off public buildings. I like it. It keeps me busy. It feels pretty satisfying to know that at the end of each day I've made Sydney Road look a little better for everyone who lives, works and visits here. Cleaner streets make it a nicer place to shop too, and that helps our local traders. And as everyone starts their day and the shop's open, I get to meet some lovely community members and their dogs. Everyone knows Sydney Road is legendary. We should all show it some love.
Libraries are the heart of our community. They connect us, inspire us, and support lifelong learning.
Whether it's borrowing books, thank you,
learning how to use computers,
getting creative in our makerspaces,
or simply having a welcoming space to belong, the library is the place to be.
We're always evolving our spaces, collections and services to meet the diverse needs of our wonderful community.
I love my library. It's a safe place to be, it's inclusive. I always find something new that interests me. It's not just the place for books anymore.
A library has something for people of all ages.
And is a place of discovery, events and learning at every stage of life. It's your library. Visit us today.
Did you know that Merri-bek is home to a diverse community where more than 95 languages are spoken? That's why we offer information on council services in your language. If you've received a rates notice that you don't understand, would like to request a new bin, or have another question for council, we can help. We have free in-person and phone interpreters who can help you communicate with staff at council in your language. To request an interpreter, simply call 92401111 and ask one of our customer service staff to organize one for you. You can also request an interpreter at one of our customer service centers, libraries, or maternal and child health centers. At Merri-bek, we're proud of our diverse community and we want to make sure everyone can access our services. For more information about our language services, please visit our website.
Wheel Sisters came about after some women in Fawkner approached us, wanting to learn to ride bikes and also find other women from their own community to ride with, including women who might ride in hijab or in abaya. One of the things that never gets old when you teach people to ride bikes is the sheer thrill they get when they realise they can do it.
The really special thing about teaching both the women in Fawkner and the women here is just the cultural barriers that they face every day, and coming from a place where they never thought they'd ever be able to ride a bike. A lot of them do reflect that it's been their lifelong dream to ride a bike, but they never thought they'd be able to do it. So it's just that extra level of being able to gift that to somebody.
I got really excited when I heard about this program. I'm almost 40 and I've never ridden a bike. I tried when I was little. Yeah, I still can't believe that I can ride, and yeah, it's been a dream and I'm so glad that it came true.
It was excellent, very special experience for me because it was my childhood wish to learn how to ride a bike.
Yeah, my experience was great because I've never ridden the bike before. So it was like truly empowering for me. And I thought I can't ever learn, but Kaz was really patient and encouraging.
At this age, it's a really courageous thing to learn new things. And any age, anyone can do it if they want it. And willingness is the most important things, and that's I prove myself.
I think it's good health-wise as well as environmentally. It gives me some physical activity to incorporate into my daily routine. I think it was great to find other people like me who have recently learned to ride, and we are all well connected now. Yeah, after so many years, I'm very grateful to have this opportunity and have Cass and Faith with us, and they've been amazing teachers. Everybody should give it a go and see for themselves how easy it is. Because I never thought I could, and I'm able to do it now.
Merri-bek as an organisation has a culture of pushing for better outcomes for the environment and really strong on sustainability. Part of that is adapting our infrastructure in the face of climate change. To do that, we need to test things. We need to work together with others in the industry to look at better and different ways of doing things. And that's what this trial is all about. This project has been a collaboration between Melbourne Water, Merri-bek City Council, the University of Melbourne, and then we've been working with Porous Lane, who have been coming up with new permeable pavement technologies which have been adapted for this permeable curb and channel.
Porous Lane is a unique material developed out of research at the University of Melbourne. It's comprised of approximately 50% recycled tyre, all sourced from Australia, and in this case the tyres were sourced from here in Victoria. It's a unique material in that it has a very high permeability. It infiltrates water at approximately 8 times the guideline that we use, international guideline, and so it's really effective at getting water off the road.
So this is a permeable curb and channel. The idea is that when it's raining, water will fall on what we call our catchment, so the street here in front of us, and it moves through this permeable material. Behind the permeable material, we've got this structural soil trench, and that's what the tree roots will actually grow in. So the water can move through and it can irrigate these recently planted trees. This is great for trying to get the trees to grow more so they suffer less drought stress, but also great in terms of reducing the amount of stormwater runoff that's eventually making its way down to the drainage pit and then into the nearest urban waterway, which can cause issues there. So you can see that the water doesn't move in immediately. It takes a little bit of time before it finally infiltrates through the curb, but we've dumped a lot of water on it in a hurry, and by the time we get to this small pile of leaves here, the water is infiltrating and starting to move in, and therefore not going down the network. A normal curb and channel will just convey runoff from streets, car parks, etc. really efficiently down into drainage networks. And the problem with that is it'll pick up pollutants on the way. We can see some leaf litter here, but also other types of pollutants which are deposited around the place. And that gets conveyed to waterways really fast, and it causes degradation and basically destruction of waterway ecosystems. So compared to a normal curb and channel, this permeable one can reduce the amount of water that's going to make it into drainage networks and try and avoid or at least mitigate some of those negative impacts.
It really has been a collaboration in the real sense of the word, in that throughout, the concept, coming up with the idea, talking through the site location, refining the design, working with the engineers, getting everyone on board has taken a real team effort. It's a strength when you've got all those different perspectives and all those different areas of expertise coming together, because it is hard to change and it is hard to do things differently. And I think that's really probably what the success of a partnership project is.
The compost that we receive from Merri-bek Council that's made from the waste from our green bins, the food and organics waste, is a fantastic resource. A lot of carbon, a lot of organic matter that goes to building up the soil here, combined with the compost that we make ourselves. You know, a really brilliant resource for the garden, and it produces fantastic crops, as you can see behind me.
Well, obviously it's really important to compost food. If it's just going into the normal bin, then it's creating all these really bad greenhouse gases and contributing to climate change. But the benefit for community gardens is that we can't generate as much compost on our own, so we need the addition of council compost to help us grow vegetables and renew the soil, so we get the best productivity from the garden.
Sometimes when we get the compost, there's contaminants in it, like plastics, biodegradable bags. Some of them are not quite suitable for the process that the compost goes through. We have to then sort through the compost and pull them out. Otherwise, they're going to contaminate all our vegetables and the earth that we're trying to re-nourish with the compost.
Messages go around on Facebook saying, hey, there's zucchini or cucumbers in the basket at Pentridge, and they're gone in, you know, half an hour later. So we just like to share it with the community, because that's what it's about.
Councillors and members of the gallery, and to our viewers live streaming tonight's meeting. My name is Councillor Helen Davidson. I'm the Mayor of Merri-bek City Council and the chairperson of tonight's council meeting, and it's my pleasure to welcome you tonight. We are meeting on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri Wurrung people, and I wish to acknowledge them as the traditional custodians of the lands and waterways on which we meet, and to pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging, as well as to all other elders from other communities who have significantly contributed to the life of this city. This council meeting is being recorded and web streamed live to council's website and YouTube. This recording will also be available as video on demand. Attendees are advised that they will be recorded during the meeting. A reminder that as councillors, we will act in accordance with the Councillor Code of Conduct that will support the principles of leadership and good governance that secures public confidence in the office of councillor. In the event of an emergency or disruption, we may be required to take action to ensure the safety of attendees. For members of the gallery and councillors attending in person, please follow the directions issued by council staff and security officers. I'd now like to introduce the councillors we have in attendance tonight. We have the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Helen Politis.
Good evening, everybody.
Councillor Natalie Aboud.
Hello, everyone.
Councillor Sue Bolton.
Hi, everybody.
Councillor Liz Irvin.
Hi, everyone.
Councillor Jay Iwasaki.
Hi, everyone.
Councillor Chris Miles.
Evening.
Councillor Alice Benson.
Hello, everybody.
Councillor Kat Theodosis.
Hi, everyone.
And Councillor Oscar Yildiz.
Good evening, everybody.
And Councillor Adam Pulford has been approved to attend the meeting online and will be joining us shortly. I'd also like to introduce the Acting Chief Executive Officer, Eamon Fennessy, and also the senior management team. We'll move on to disclosures of conflicts of interest. Councillors, are there any disclosures of conflicts of interest to declare tonight? No. If there are none, we'll move on to confirmation of the minutes from our previous meeting held on the 8th of October. Is there a councillor who wishes to move this? Thank you, Councillor Theodosis and Councillor Jay Iwasaki to second. All those in favour? I declare that carried. Now we come to the section of acknowledgements and other matters, and this is where provision of up to 10 minutes is provided for councillors to acknowledge and recognise achievements of local individuals or organisations and raise matters that are considered important to council that aren't on the agenda. Councillors, is there a matter that you wish to raise? Thank you, Councillor Aboud. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to report that since the last council meeting, I attended the Waste Expo at the Melbourne Convention Centre because I'm following quite closely the proposal for Cleanaway are asking to build a large incinerator at Wollert, which is apparently about 400 metres from the top of the Merri Creek, which runs through the ward that I represent in the city and through the city. So it's kind of complicated, but I sat through sort of a day of talks about that sort of thing. They refer to it as waste to energy rather than incineration, and at this stage have not told us where the fly ash will go, which is part of the burn process, which I find kind of concerning because they did outline in great detail that the fly ash from Australia's only other burn project in WA gets taken 200 k's north of Kalgoorlie and basically stored inside some incredible bit of geology that involves not having groundwater for the last millions of years, which is why it's safe to be there. So I did ask the question and there wasn't an answer given to me because there is no answer. But I also heard about how we change people's behaviour with regard to the way we treat our waste so that we can create a more efficient circular economy, and the little bit of joy that I found at the Waste Expo, which wasn't my opportunity to talk about single-use plastic in our policies in the city, because we were given the opportunity to collect pens and tote bags and plastic footies and a whole bunch of other stuff, which I did ask about. But the bit of joy that I did find is that Street, which people might know, and Make Studio are having some really successful outcomes repurposing what we commonly know as food waste from the Victoria market. So that did inspire me greatly, but it was well worth attending.
Thank you, Councillor Abood. Councillor Bolton.
In case anyone here in the audience or watching online is from Fawkner, there's going to be a little street corner meeting in Fawkner on the corner of Bonwick Street and Dukes Road on this coming Saturday morning at 10 a.m. to discuss possible solutions for around pedestrian safety, in particular at the pedestrian crossing on Dukes Road, outside the chemist shop, opposite the Bonwick Street shops, where there have been a lot of near misses as people have been crossing that road. So that's at 10 a.m. this coming Saturday. And also I want to just mention to people, in case, because not everyone watches council all the time, what council's doing, but the council has initiated a public consultation around proposed changes and redevelopment of the central Coburg precinct. And so that's something which people will really want to have a look at and have a say on. So it's on the website, towards the bottom of the homepage. But if you can't find it, just contact me or any of the other councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Are there any... Thank you, Councillor Politis.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to talk about community, because this month, or the past month, has been really the festival that celebrated seniors, carers, and especially multiculturalism. And I'm very proud to be part of a council that supports events like the Diwali Festival and the Chinese Moon Festival, and many of the Greek festivals that have taken place in Merri-bek. I want to give a big shout out to the Merri-bek community shed, which I had the pleasure of visiting a couple of weeks ago. That community shed relocated to the site of the Coburg Bowls Club. They had 9 members at the beginning of last year. They've now got about 240 members, and there is very strong interest for more members joining that organisation. The work they do is fabulous. When I was there, there were people making things like salad bowls. I think someone was making a candle holder, and there was a woman there who was salvaging or upcycling a chest of drawers that she'd salvaged by the side of the road. So they do really fantastic things, and it's great that Merri-bek supports them, our Merri-bek Council supports them. The other organisation that I want to shout out to is the Neighbourhood House in Reynard Street, who have been very successful in obtaining grants to enable social enterprises to start, and these social enterprises teach skills in the areas of catering and horticulture, and help people within the community, people who suffer disadvantage, to get on their feet and get a job. And it's very much what local community houses are all about, and this one in Reynard Street's really punching above its weight. The final organisation that I want to mention is Our Daily Bread program, and I'm really pleased that this month Merri-bek Council was able to secure them a space in the schoolhouse studios to store all their foodstuffs, mainly their dry foodstuffs. Our Daily Bread program distributes over 200 meals a week to the vulnerable, so it's fantastic that our council is enabling these programs to continue. Thank you.
Councillor Politis. Are there any further councillors who wish to? Councillor Irvin.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I just wanted to promote an event that's coming up. It's the Coburg Road Safety Community Forum. So it's a group of residents have got together sort of centring around Moreland Road and safety concerns along there. They've also started a petition to the state government to improve safety. And they're holding this forum on Saturday, November 22nd from 2 to 4 o'clock at Coburg Library. So there's more information if you look it up on Facebook or online. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Irvin. Are there any councillors that wish to provide acknowledgements? Councillor Iwasaki.
Thank you. Two things really quick. I just want to acknowledge that we will soon be having a new Brunswick Picture House opening on Sydney Road, which is very exciting. They're putting out the signs for the cinema today, and this is by Gus Berger, who runs the Thornbury Picture House. So if you don't know, there were several old movie theaters on Sydney Road that are all gone, one of which was the IGA, which was a beautiful Art Deco theater, and Gus is bringing a bit of that history back to Sydney Road, and it'll be great when it opens soon. They're doing a fundraiser for foundation members, and I hope everyone can have a chance to have a look. The work's almost finished and hopefully opening soon. And that's just opposite Sparta Place and Ballarat Street. So looking forward to that. And also, Councillor Irvin and I had the good fortune to attend the pollinator picnic at Tate Reserve on Sunday, where we got to make bee hotels, and that was put on with Friends of Mary Creek East Coburg, and we had Clancy the bee man, who's been in this chamber before talking about supporting native pollinators. So you can follow Clancy the bee man on Instagram if you want to support our native pollinators. He does free workshops a lot, and hopefully we'll have more in Merri-bek, so you can have your own native bee hotel in your yard.
Great, thank you, Councillor Iwasaki. Are there any further councillors? I'll just add a few points as well, and thank you, Councillor Bolton, for raising the Central Coburg project and vision. So it's particularly important, and we're encouraging all residents to submit their ideas and their feedback on Conversations Merri-bek, and this is looking at what can be done with that space in Central Coburg, where there is a huge amount of probably about 2 MCGs worth of asphalt. So what can council do with this council-owned land? We're in a very strategic position right now, and how we can shape this for the future. The proposal has 6 new parks, residential dwellings, including social and affordable housing, and the impetus and the momentum will be really gathered through the library and piazza that council is investing in $60 million in that space. So we're really trying to envisage something great for this location, and we want to hear the community's feedback. I'd also like to point out the advocacy for the Upfield line. So we know the Upfield line is plagued by delays and cancellations. It's particularly important that we look to electrify and extend the Upfield line out to Wallen, as well as duplicate the line from Gowrie and Upfield. People are missing their trains. If you're standing on the platform and you miss one train, you're waiting 40 minutes. And try explaining that to your boss why you're late because the Upfield train line doesn't run on time. So any advocacy that community can do to encourage the state government to invest in the upfield line is greatly appreciated. I'd also like to acknowledge the incredible work that has been done by so many brilliant artists for the Summer Art Show. And we're fortunate enough to have an incredibly brilliant and talented artist in the gallery with us tonight, Maggie. Maggie won an award at the Summer Art Show. So please give Maggie a big round of applause for her incredible work. Thank you. And please visit the Coonahan Gallery. There are some incredibly brilliant artists and minds, and so much thought and creativity goes into producing this work. I'd really encourage anyone who hasn't been down there to pop down and visit the art gallery. So on that note, we can move on to petitions. And there are no petitions listed in the agenda, but we have 2 petitions that have been received since the agenda was produced. And the first petition is if Fiona is present to present the petition. Councillor Iwasaki, is this... Fiona is just arriving. Maybe we'll turn to Yeah. Oh, and we have Yasser to present his petition. Please come forward, Yasser, and we'll return to Fiona. Go ahead, Yasser. Oh, you need to press the microphone so the people outside can hear you too.
Okay, sorry. Sorry.
No problem.
Okay, I'll start again. I'm here representing Moggies of Merri-bek, a grassroots community of residents and animal rescue volunteers without any established lobby group behind us. We built this from scratch because we care deeply about cats and wildlife. Our petition opposing any form of cat curfew has 405 signatures from every single Merri-bek suburb, with the largest numbers being from Brunswick and Coburg. That's roughly equal to the October consultation and more than double the June survey, showing residents remain highly engaged and most were unaware that this change was even proposed. What we've heard since has been moving. Elderly residents fear surrendering long-loved cats. Renters and people facing housing insecurity say they can't build enclosures as landlords won't allow it and they can't afford to rebuild every time they move. One man in a one-room granny flat asked, should my cat really be confined to one small room? And do we really want cat companionship to be tied to how wealthy you are? Shelter volunteers tell us curfews elsewhere didn't reduce impounds, but increased them. As Simone, who's volunteered for years, put it, more healthy cats end up caged and more are euthanized simply because there's no space. We've also seen division and intimidation. People online talk about trapping and destroying cats. And some have even targeted me personally for appearing in an article offering to catch and dispose of my cat. By making outdoor cats effectively illegal, council risks fueling that kind of cat-hating vigilantism. The process has also been concerning. The October damp survey launched originally without a no curfew option, and then partway through quietly added one. Many residents never saw the change and so didn't vote because at first there was no way for them to say no. Yet, despite that, no curfew was still the majority result, and that still wasn't reflected in the main officer report. Even more disturbing, Council in September resolved to delete references to 24-hour curfews, but then they magically reappeared once the survey was underway. How is that an invisible hand keeps guiding us to 24 hours, no matter what Council or residents say? We can actually protect wildlife and support responsible pet ownership through education and desexing, not fines and fear. Even the Bella and Charlie study Council references has been debunked by the Australian Pet Welfare Foundation as overstating pet cat predation by around 16 times. Please accept this petition of 405 voices, abandon any sort of curfews, and resume the humane, manual-style desexing and education approach Council endorsed back in 2022.
Thank you, Yasser.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. That's all.
Is there a councillor who would brief? Yeah. Do you want to speak to the petition, Councillor Yildiz? Or you?
No, well put, Yasser. Evidence-based as well. Well done.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Councillor Yildiz, would you like to move the petition?
Happy to move the petition.
And is there a seconder? Councillor Bolton. All those in favour of receiving the petition? I declare that carried. Thank you, Yasser.
Do I turn this off now?
Just leave it on. Yeah, that's fine. And yes, if you could hand that up. Thank you. Really appreciate you coming. Thank you. Now I'd like to invite Fiona to come into the chamber to present her petition. Thank you, Fiona. Please come to the lectern and you have 2 minutes to present your petition.
Good evening, Council. I'm here in a bit of a rush because I cycled from the other side of the city. I've been trying to finish my PhD in biodiversity sensitive urban design. I'm an ecologist by background. Today I bring you this petition signed by 59 members of the community, not quite as many, but all of them support a 24-hour cat containment for Merri-bek. And I understand that actually there is a loud minority of people here against cat containment because according to the statistics and research conducted by Monash University surveys, 66% of Australians are in support of cat containment. And more than half of the undersigned people on this petition have a cat, and they contain it to keep cats and wildlife safe because they care about both. And this includes walking your cat, creating a catio if you have the means, but just like dogs are not allowed to roam because they harm other animals and people sometimes, it's the same principle for cats. And in fact, the RSPCA Safe for Cats program and Wildlife Welfare Victoria support on their website, cats are at serious risk of being harmed when they're roaming. And in fact, they can be hit by cars, they can catch diseases, they can be bitten by snakes and poisoned. And according to Animal Welfare Victoria, 2 out of 3 cat owners have permanently lost a cat to roaming incidents. So the other thing is that the people on this petition know that every year we delay action, each domestic cat that's roaming, not a stray cat, kills 110 native animals per year, per cat.
I'd like to ask the members of the gallery to please be respectful when other people are speaking.
We specifically requested 24-hour cat containment policy, firstly because research shows that nighttime-only curfews don't stop cats from hunting because they simply shift their hunting schedules to daylight hours, and secondly because nighttime curfews are impractical. So no one is out at night to call the cat's owner to come collect the cat that's breaking curfew. Just like dogs, cats do not have the right to roam at the expense of our unique, fragile and irreplaceable ecosystems. Cats were brought to this country by European colonisers to recreate European landscapes, to hunt, and in many cases intentionally kill native animals. This is a colonial norm that has led to the ecocide we see today in the biodiversity crisis. But when norms are harmful, we change them. And it's an ecological consensus that cats are a leading cause of biodiversity loss in this country. The question is, will we continue to be complicit in this ecocide? Don't we owe it to our precious and irreplaceable ecosystems?
Yeah,
and
if you could wind up. Yes.
Sorry, can I have that second that there was an interruption?
You've had about 30 other seconds, but please wind up. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say we owe it to all of the work Merri-bek is doing for biodiversity to not work against ourselves with this one.
Thank you very much, Fiona. Appreciate you coming. Thank you. And councillors, is there a councillor who wishes to speak to the petition and move it? Thank you, Councillor Iwasaki.
I'll just speak briefly as a wildlife biologist. I really appreciate everyone coming, and actually we're all here because we care about our animals and our cats, as a cat owner myself. And yes, I'd like to move this petition in support.
Thank you, Councillor Saki. Is there a councillor who wishes to second? Councillor Svensson. And all those in favour of receiving the petition, I declare that carried. Now we'll move on to questions of council and community statements. So the time provided for questions and statements is 30 minutes, and this time can be extended by another 30 minutes by resolution of the council. If we don't have time to answer your question, it will be responded to in writing and taken on notice. Priority will be given to questions and statements that relate to matters already in the agenda. If time allows, questions about other items that aren't listed in the agenda will be considered. There's a maximum of 2 questions or statements in any combination allowed per person, and questions or statements that relate to a matter listed in the agenda will be dealt with first. If you have registered to ask a question when I invite you or your representative, please state your name and suburb and then ask your question with a preamble or background of up to 3 minutes. If you've registered to make a statement, you or your representative can If you could please state your name and suburb and make your statement without taking longer than 3 minutes. If you've submitted a second question or indicated you have a second statement, it may be deferred until all other people who have submitted questions have asked their first question, or not be asked if time does not permit. So there's a maximum of 3 questions on any one subject. Then we will proceed to the next topic. If time allows, we will return to the previous topic. I will either answer the question on behalf of council or invite another councillor to answer. Alternatively, I'll ask the Chief Executive Officer to provide a response or refer to another council officer. There will be no response or discussion in relation to community statements. As detailed in the governance rules, questions or statements may be disallowed if they are defamatory, indecent, abusive, offensive or irrelevant, or trivial or objectionable in language or substance. If a response to your question is provided at tonight's meeting, there'll be no further formal response. However, council will action any commitments made in answering the questions. So council has received a total of 10 questions and statements. All submitters have been invited to ask their questions, and that doesn't include the questions that we received at the start of this meeting. So we'll start with the first on the domestic animal management plan. And we have Jenny Cottrell, who is online, who is wanting to make a statement. Hi, Jenny, please go ahead with your statement.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Jenny Cottrell. I hold qualifications in animal science and conservation and land management. I worked as an animal management officer for 24 years and 10 years in the pound and shelter industry. I implemented and ran the Banyul cat desexing program for its entire lifespan, and I've published 3 peer-reviewed papers on its outcomes. A cat curfew might sound like a simple fix: make a law, all will comply, and the problem will disappear. But curfews only apply to owned cats, and cats can only be enforced if ownership can be proven. Many cats are unidentifiable and can't be caught, making enforcement extremely difficult. The root cause of cat overpopulation is unowned and semi-owned cats, the source of most complaints and impounds. These cats aren't affected by curfews, will keep roaming and breeding, and have no owner to hold accountable. Curfews also create false expectations. Residents will still see roaming cats, and then they'll be expected to trap them. In Merri-bek, only 6% of 954 impounded cats were reclaimed, showing that most are unowned or semi-owned. Based on my research, each impound costs approximately $500, so that worked out to be more than $450,000 last year based on those impound totals, which is a significant burden on ratepayers. Meanwhile, 334 cats were euthanised, highlighting a capacity issue that damages council's social licence to operate. A cat curfew would also worsen social inequity. Many households already struggling with rent and bills, and they don't have any in social housing, quite often no yards, fly screens, or landlord permissions for enclosures, making cat ownership a privilege for those with money. Even grants, many disadvantaged residents can't contribute funds. So micro-targeting, desexing, combined with community engagement, focuses on streets with highest complaint and intake rates, is what works. Programs succeed because they build trust with the community. Then residents trust officers, they cooperate, they share information. Running a curfew alongside desexing programs will destroy that trust and reduce participation. My program dissects 869 cats over 8 years, reducing complaints, impounds and costs, all through partnership and engagement, not curfews. I urge councillors to reject the proposed curfew and instead strengthen the sexing programs that help families take ownership of their cats and the cats that they care for. This approach delivers better outcomes for the community, the cats and the environment.
Thank you, Fiona. Appreciate you attending online tonight. Next, we have a statement from Beth Healy, who is in person with us this evening. Please come forward, Beth. Thanks, Beth. Please come forward. It's just through to the lectern. Sorry, it's a bit of a maze out there. Yeah, hi, Beth.
Hello, Mayor and councillors.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yep.
Yes.
Great. I'm just going to start my timer.
Yeah, no problem. There's a little clock there too.
Oh, good. My name is Beth and I am a resident of Merri-bek for about 17 years. I've been doing grassroots cat rescue in the northern suburbs since about 2009. I've trapped and desexed, rehabilitated or rehomed thousands of stray and semi-owned cats in Melbourne. I'm a bit tired. I don't want to have to keep going out at night, sitting there for hours and hours trapping cats. I'm sick of it. I'd rather stay home and watch Netflix. But the number of stray cats is increasing exponentially. And councils have not been able to achieve much to address this, and it's only going to get worse. Council rely very heavily on volunteer rescues like me to actually remove cats from the street. And I don't know that council really understands how much community desexing we actually do. But with desexing costs doubling, or more than doubling, in recent years, it's becoming impossible for us to sustain this community support, and many of the groups run at a loss. And only a small proportion of the grants of their wonderful grant program given to the various animal welfare groups actually is available for cat desexing. The rescues are full. We cannot keep up with the number of stray cats. The real problem is stray cat population, not owned, desexed pet cats. Any cat curfew will achieve nothing to address this problem. I don't understand why we're all having such a bee in our bonnet about cat curfews, when a curfew does nothing to address the actual council damp objection, which is addressing the overpopulation of cats. And that made me have a think about what's been happening recently, and I want some questions that I want to present to the councillors before you decide what your vote is going to be tonight. Why was the clear no curfew majority result from the October vote missing from the council officer summary report? Why does a majority of less than 200 votes in September represent the people spoke, while a clear majority of 400 votes in October doesn't? How is it that a separate and very distinct two votes, 12 and 24-hour results, later combined be combined against normal good statistical practice? This artificially inflates support for a 24-hour curfew. For me personally, I can't help but wonder, why is it that a small number of people who happen to control the narrative within council are able to repeatedly introduce a 24-hour curfew which has been rejected at every turn? And I want to leave with just two really key points that I want to close with. One of the biggest opportunity for councils to reduce the stray cat population humanely and sustainably is to get residents to take responsibility for the semi-owned cats that they're feeding. Any sort of mandated curfew, 12 or 24 hours now or 24 hours in next year, will prevent residents from adopting the stray cats they are feeding.
Beth, if you could wind up,
Even if
please.
desexing is free. Desexing programs and curfews are not compatible. My apologies for going over.
No problem.
I urge the councillors to remain faithful to the objective of the DAMP plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
We now have Imogen Ebsworth, who is online with a statement. And I'd like to also acknowledge and welcome Councillor Adam Pulford.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Hello. Hi, Imogen. Thank you for coming online tonight. Please go ahead with your statement. Can you hear us, Imogen?
Imogen, can you hear me?
Hi, Imogen. Please go ahead. You're going to need to unmute.
Hi there.
Yes, thank you. Please go ahead.
Thanks very much for having me, Merri-bek Council. My name is Imogen Ebsworth from the Invasive Species Council. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your review of your domestic animal management plan in consideration of measures around cats. Every year in Greater Melbourne area, 62 million birds, frogs, lizards and other wildlife, including possums, are killed by roaming cats. Therefore, I really hope the Council, which has an incredibly admirable draft nature plan, will take on board our recommendation that you move to full 24/7 cat containment. The really good news about moving to 24/7 cat containment is it's actually what's best for cats as well. There's really significant research showing that cats live for up to 10 years longer when they're stopped from roaming and are given a happy indoor life, including access such as catios. That's simply because they're not subject to being hit by cars, contracting diseases, and also getting into fights. So the result that you can have if you are moved to cat containment means that you can have a fantastic outcome for your wildlife as well as for beloved pets in your community. I would really urge the Council to make a measured and steady plan based with significant education of your community and support towards transitioning to 24/7 cat containment. It doesn't work well if you just arbitrarily impose it on the community. It's a very large cultural change you're trying to pull off, but I think you'll find also it's one that's broadly supported by your community. There's been significant polling and research on Australian sentiments towards cat containment now for a number of years, and consistently it finds, including for Greater Melbourne, that 2/3 of the community understand that how we look after cats as a pet needs to change and that cat containment is an appropriate response. This very much mirrors the change we went through culturally as a community around dogs, where it used to be acceptable for dogs to roam, and then we realised that they had an enormous impact on our wildlife and also on the community amenity, and we moved to ensuring that people needed to have them registered and also kept on their properties. So I really hope you'll do the same for cats. It would make an enormous difference to the wildlife in your shire. It very much would help you achieve the aims you've set out in your draft nature plan. And I believe that if you make a plan to transition your community there, you will find that the community moves happily with you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming online. Next we have in person Kathleen Chapman. Next we have in person Kathleen Chapman. Please come forward, Kathleen. Hi, Kathleen. Nice to see you in person.
You too. So good evening, Mayor and councillors. My name is Kathleen Chapman and I'm from Moggies of Merri-bek. I've been rescuing stray cats for 20 years. I work with stray cats as well as cats rescued from pounds and shelters, and I'm also an advocate for humane and evidence approaches to animal management. I'd like to start with a quote from the Australian Pet Welfare Foundation's position statement on cat containment, which goes to the heart of the issue. Mandated cat containment actively prevents the resolution of the problem of wandering cats because it presents a huge barrier to semi-owners taking full ownership of the cats that they are feeding. In 2024-25, Merri-bek impounded 954 cats and only 57 were reclaimed by owners, a return rate of just 6%. The vast majority of cats that are being impounded are unowned or semi-owned. Semi-owned meaning someone feeds them but doesn't consider themselves to be their owner. The key to effectively reducing the cat population is to get semi-owners to take full ownership of the cats that they are feeding. And this was done very successfully by Banyule Council. This involves targeting the areas where most complaints are coming from and where cats are being impounded, speaking to people who are feeding these cats and offering free desexing, free microchipping and free registration. Any curfew represents a huge barrier to getting people to take ownership of the cats they are feeding. People will not take up a free service if they believe they will then be fined for being unable to comply with legislation, such as a cat curfew. Council needs to work with people who are feeding outdoor cats, as they are a key part of the equation in reducing the outdoor cat population. The community cat program in Banyule resulted in a 66% reduction in cat impoundments, an 82% reduction in euthanasia, and a 36% reduction in complaints. The program cost around $77,000 but saved council more than $440,000. In contrast, while probably more than 100 Australian councils have introduced cat curfews, there is no evidence whatsoever to support their effectiveness. Why would council choose to introduce a cat curfew, which has no evidence to support it, instead of a targeted cat desexing program, the effectiveness of which has been clearly documented in several peer-reviewed journal articles? Furthermore, a cat curfew is simply unenforceable unless you're relying on neighbourhood vigilantes to trap and impound other people's cats. This has happened in Darebin with someone setting up an Instagram page to encourage people to report cats out after dark so that she can trap them. Please do what is right, reject any form of cat curfew and instead vote to implement an evidence-based targeted cat desexing program. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kathleen. Next up we have Maggie Crowling, who is in person with a statement, and that relates to the item on the agenda to retain the former Coburg North TAFE site. Please come forward, Maggie.
Hello, Mayor and Councillors. I'm not Maggie, as you might know. My name's Teodora Lamaro, and due to some crossover between Merri-bek Climate Action and my statement, and in the interests of time, Maggie's asked me to represent her and read my statement instead.
No problem.
I'm from Coburg North.
Thank you.
This submission relates to motion 8.1 about the former Batman TAFE site, and it's from the TAFE site stakeholders group. We submit this statement as key stakeholders in the redevelopment of the former Batman TAFE site in Coburg North. Many of us live and work on this block, and some of our homes are completely surrounded by the site in question, including my home. We oppose the motion to retain the zoning of this area as industrial land, as we believe it does not accurately reflect the existing character or usage of the neighbourhood. This block and the surrounding area is a vibrant mix of hospitality venues, residential properties, creative industries, industrial businesses and retail spaces. There is a long history of it being used for mixed purposes, including agriculture, manufacturing and design, and residents have called this block home for over a century. We are deeply concerned that the Victorian State Government has earmarked this site for ongoing industrial use without sufficient consultation with the local community. As residents and workers directly impacted by this decision, we ask that our voices be heard and our homes be considered in shaping the future of this precinct. We, the local residents and business owners, have been engaged with Merri-bek Council since 2020, including a meeting held on the 24th of July that year with council officers Maria Luisa Nadella, Kim Giaquinta, Mark Hughes and Lambros Tapinos. We have also been in discussions and had meetings with Anthony Cianflone on the 6th of June 2023. We support the use of this site for mixed uses, covering the following points: meaningful consultation with First Nations traditional owners of the natural wetland site, including engaging with the Wurundjeri Land Tribal Council to ensure appropriate protocols are adhered to and treaty guidelines followed regarding any development moving forward. Importantly, protecting the amenity of existing residents, including air quality, noise levels, and light conditions for those of us whose homes share boundaries with the site. Preserve and protect and enhance the existing canopy trees and natural environment on the site, and in the state, why not? Create urban permeability, ensuring safe, accessible routes for walking and cycling and providing public green spaces that help cool our suburb, foster community connection and support mental health. Encourage access to and engagement with local enterprises located on the site. We, the TAFE Site Stakeholders Group, support innovative, creative and sustainable development, including green retrofits of existing buildings wherever possible. We also emphasise our request for ongoing, meaningful community involvement throughout the planning and development process to ensure outcomes that reflect the values and needs of the local neighbourhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, on the same topic and the same report, we have Theodora Lamara. Oh, sorry, Theodora. Oh, okay. Combine the two, right? I'm with the program. Okay, no problem. We have now our non-agenda items, and Helen Deans, who is in person, and Helen has a submission in relation to the Activity Centre program Phase 2 engagement. And Helen has 2 questions. Hi, Helen.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors and staff. And thank you. I really wanted to thank you for the fast action last meeting. Thank you, Sue. Thanks, Liz. And thanks, Natalie. And thanks also, Helen, for meeting with us afterwards. But for at least adding a few things to the Activity Centre amendment. My first question actually relates to that. It's I'm not sure. We were absolutely blindsided. In fact, that was the name of the article that appeared in The Age on the 11th of September, and it was just highlighting the extraordinary high-rise development that was going to be occurring right throughout lots of areas. But particularly, we are really going to cop it, particularly our strategic sites. Anyway, I'm not sure if people are aware, but first of all, this Activity Centre program came out in May, and it's just no changes to heritage overlays. Now, we were sort of thinking, oh, well, that's interesting, that's nice, feeling a little bit comfortable. And then we happened to, after seeing the article in The Age, we actually, through seeing our local member, etc., we went on to the engage.vic.gov.au website, and the 2 draft plans for Brunswick and Coburg were clear on there. They're very hard to find, I might say. You actually, you get onto that site and you get into Merri-bek and you get into the first map and you think, oh, well, it's really that sort of core area. But you have to then push a tiny little next button to get onto the next picture, and then you have to push the next button to really get to the serious development. And it does go quite a long way out on either side. It's not just the core area, sorry about that. Anyway, my next thing was, at the council meeting last time, we noticed that the council, this is the Brunswick plan that was proposed. First of all, this was the plan that was proposed by the state government on my right, and on my left were the changes that you made as a council, and a lot of the 4 to 6, the inner core areas, you actually changed, you had changed to outer core, which means you've dropped them down to 3 and 4 level. And then on the Coburg one, this is the state government suggestion on my right once again, and on my left are the changes that were made by council. And you can see there aren't actually a lot in comparison. Brunswick actually lucked out in that way, I might say.
Helen,
But
sorry to interrupt. If you could wind up, please.
Right. So there are so few changes made to us, and I really want to know, my actual question was, oh, I've got the wrong question, sorry. Yeah. What, why were heritage sites, streets, areas not formally accounted for and removed off the submission that our strategic planners put forward to you to endorse?
Thanks, Helen.
And I might add, on that plan that they did actually put forward, they've lopped 3 or 4 stories off the John Faulkner Hospital. So that was one of the few changes they actually made to Coburg. But anyway, I'm sorry, that was my question.
Thank you. So for your question, I'll hand it over to the Director of Place and Environment, Penny.
Through you, Mayor, and thanks, Helen, very much for your question. Council's submission to the Phase 2 State Government Activity Centre reform consultation did really carefully consider heritage sites, areas and streets in the time that was available. And in fact, the endorsed council submission that council endorsed last month discussed building heights and catchment boundaries, seeking to lower proposed heights in heritage streetscapes and to move all heritage precincts to what the state calls the outer catchment area, which is consistent with the state's methodology and the lowest height within the state's methodology. Council also heard 2 public questions, as you know, on heritage at the October meeting and considered those representations from the community in its decision and in the Phase 2 submission. And I think, as we advised last month, we do understand from the state, and we have the same information as the community on this, that the heritage overlay will continue to protect any significant heritage places from inappropriate development in the same way that it does today. Council doesn't control the state's decision-making on this process, but our understanding is that those existing heritage protections will remain.
Thank you. I wish I had the same sort of faith in our state government.
Thank you. It's not really a point for discussion, but... Okay, very quickly. Thanks, Nat.
Thanks for coming back, Helen. Have you had any indication from the consultation at the state level that you've been heard or...?
Yes, I actually wrote them a letter on the on the 30th of September, and I actually received a reply back 2 days ago. And the woman actually, the consultant or whoever it was who responded, and I'll provide you with the letter, said that she didn't think I should worry, I should go in and have a look at the site, and I could see through, and she pointed me to the core picture and obviously hadn't gone next. So she had obviously missed the sort of extensive, 6 stories that's dropping over heritage and single dwelling covenanted land that's clearly marked on the other map that has the heritage areas. So she said she hoped she'd reassured me, and I said, well, thanks for her reply, but she certainly hadn't reassured me.
Okay, thank you, Helen. Thanks.
So the other question, sorry, I had 2 questions. And the other one just is actually, I just would like a formal response to, I want to know the timeline. We were absolutely shocked.
Sorry, Helen, can you ask your question? I'm just conscious that we only have 3 minutes and it's gone well over.
Oh, I had 2 questions. So can I run out and come back in and have
No,
my 3 minutes?
you're winding up your 2 questions in your 3 minutes.
All
So,
right. Okay. So we want to know, when did councillors and the strategic planners receive the state government Activity Centre Phase 2 proposal? Were they aware, for example, that their response had to be made prior to the information sessions that we received? did they know the information sessions were on? Because nobody in an entire area of 70 people who came to a public meeting in the park around us, not one person had heard about these. And we did hear about the second one down at Ballam Place. And when we turned up en masse, we had warned them that 30 would be there together at 5 o'clock. They were
So
absolutely
what I might do is
shocked.
I'll hand your question over to the Director of Place and Environment.
One other question. Is there something that you can do about this? Because the thought of the state government having control of this is just nightmare material
It
for
is,
a lot
yeah,
of
a
us.
state project. I'll hand over to the Director of Place and Environment, Penny.
Thanks. Through you, Mayor. Thanks, Helen. I think we're only meant to take 2 questions from any person, but I'll try and answer your 3 questions quickly. So Council received the information at the same time as the community. So we received the maps on the same day that the community did, on the 10th of September. The state letterboxed and undertook consultation. We encouraged them to undertake consultation and inform people, and Council did cross-promote the state's engagement activities through our social media as well, to try and encourage people to become aware of it. So we were aware of the timeframe as the community was aware of it. There was only one council meeting that occurred during that consultation period, so there was one opportunity for council to consider and endorse the council submission to phase 2, and that was at the 8th of October meeting. So council was aware that the state's consultation was still running at that time, but council was a stakeholder just like the community, providing its feedback as a stakeholder to the state government as the responsible authority. In terms of what can council do, the minister can make these decisions. It's the State Planning and Environment Act, and this is a state process, so we can advocate. We have put in submissions that reflect council's public positions, such as the planning scheme, such as our Streets for People plan and those sorts of things, but council doesn't control this process.
Thank you. Thank you, Helen. Now, I will ask for an extension of question time. Thank you, Councillor Abood, and seconded by Councillor Svensson. All those in favour, I declare that carried. Next, we have a further question for a non-agenda item, which is Maureen McCunney, who is in person in relation to traffic impact assessment. And Maureen has 2 questions. Hi, Maureen.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors, for taking my question. It will be, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a background, but I'll be within time, okay?
Great.
Clause 56 of the Victorian planning provisions mandates that street networks must be designed to manage traffic volumes and protect local amenity and safety. Hence, there is a hierarchy of roads, lowest to highest, access connector, arterial roads. There isn't a strict legal maximum number of vehicles that can use an access street, but planning and design guidelines specify a maximum target traffic volume for these streets. A local access street is generally less than 3,000 vehicles per day, often closer to 1,000 to 2,000. The primary reason for limiting traffic volumes on access streets is to manage the balance between movement and place. They include safety. High traffic volumes naturally lead to higher perceived and actual safety risks. Amenity and livability. Limiting the number of vehicles helps to minimise noise, pollution and congestion, thereby preserving the quality of life and residential amenity of neighbourhoods. And discouraging through traffic. A well-designed hierarchy directs high volumes of traffic onto roads built to handle them, such as arterials and freeways, and keeps local traffic local. Design standards. Local access streets are built to a lower standard. For example, narrower lanes, thinner pavement than roads that are designed for higher volumes. Access streets balance the need to accommodate vehicle traffic with safety, the environment, and creating integrated, accessible and livable communities. Traffic impact assessments are standard practice in urban planning and should evaluate existing traffic volumes and road capacity, anticipated traffic generation from new development, safety risks for pedestrians and cyclists, and parking demand and overflow. My example is Station Street, Coburg, which runs parallel to Moreland Station. It is an access street with about 2,500 vehicle movements per day. With the proposed activity centre zone and increased density in only Station Street, traffic would increase to over 7,500. A connector road has a maximum capacity of 7,000. Melville Road is a connector road. It is 4 car lanes and 2 tram tracks wide. Station Street would be expected to carry the 7,500 movements in just 3 lanes width, before we even consider the developments proposed for the streets running off Station Street and the increase of people from these new high-density locations who will drive and park near Moreland Station to catch public transport. My question is, can Council confirm whether a traffic impact assessment has been conducted for the proposed activity centre intensification affecting Jessie, Hall, Florence and Station Streets? If not, why not? And if so, when was it conducted and what were the findings? And why has it not been made publicly available?
Thanks, Maureen.
Thanks.
For that question, I'll hand over to the Director of Place and Environment.
Through you, Mayor, and thanks, Maureen. And thanks again for your question about the state government's activity centre reforms. I'll just start by reiterating again that council's a stakeholder in this process, just like community members. We aren't leading it, and we've had the same time as the community to respond to what the state's been putting forward. We have advocated to the state that it take an integrated planning approach in designing the 2 Merri-bek activity centres. So that would include things like heritage, like open space, like transport and economic development considerations. We're not aware of that work, but we don't know. But this reform is being led by the state, not by council, and it is focused on built form and housing capacity. And the Minister is the planning authority and it's something she can choose to do. It's not within council's power.
Part of the submission should have been the traffic impact assessment.
Maureen, it's not a discussion, sorry.
Okay. She's had 2 opportunities to answer it in an email and I'm still not getting an answer in relation to traffic impact assessment.
Penny has answered the question, Maureen. Thank you.
Do you have any more to say?
I can elaborate further. No, okay.
I think that's covered that, Maureen. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now have Michelle McKay with a question on activity centres as well. Please come forward, Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
Everybody. End it off. Hello, everyone. Okay, so I just have a very short question. In Council's Phase 2 submission to the state government, I noted that on 9 pages, Council mentions the importance of transparency and inclusive engagement for activity centre plans. Council states the program must commit to meaningful, inclusive engagement. Before and since its submission to the state government, how many council-led consultations have there been?
Thanks, Michelle. I'll hand over to the Director, Penny.
Yes, hello, Penny.
Through you, Mayor. Hi, Michelle. It's nice to speak to you again.
Yes, I've spoken to Penny.
So, look, the activity centre reform process is being led by the state government on really tight timeframes. It's not a council project and it's not a council engagement. It's a state government engagement. So in council's own planning scheme amendment processes, we run extensive community engagements that can run over a couple of years when we are running a planning scheme amendment as council. But in this process, council is a stakeholder. We're not running the process. So we're receiving the information at the same time as the community, and we can't change that process. So we did, as you've highlighted, we did encourage the state government to engage deeply with the community in its process, and we connected community members like yourself with the state government to make sure that your voices were being heard by the state government. But in a state-run process on a very tight time frame, it's not possible for council to run a parallel competing consultation with the community about something that the state is leading, to digest it, run a competing consultation program, take the community feedback, consider it and bring it back to council. There just isn't the time available to run that parallel process.
Can I say something?
It's not a discussion,
Okay.
Michelle, but
Okay.
that's the answer provided. Thank you
Okay,
very much for
thank
coming
you.
tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now move on to council reports, because that does conclude question time. The questions that have been submitted outside of time and in the gallery will need to be taken on notice. So a response in writing will be provided. Councillor Svensson. Oh, okay. I haven't read that out yet. So we will now move on to the Domestic Animal Management Plan 2025 to 2029. And I did see Councillor Svensson. Oh, sorry. Okay. Do we need an... Yeah. Oh, gosh. All right. We'll just have a short adjournment. Okay. Okay, this is important because most of the people in the gallery are here for this first report. So I think it would be wise just to take a minute. Romeo, we're going to take your question on notice and get back to you in writing. It's okay, we'll just wait. The security have got it. Okay. We'll now resume and we'll return to the Domestic Animal Management Plan 2025 to 2029, and Councillor Svensson would like to move...
move the alternative.
An alternate, and Councillor Iwasaki to second.
Yes, that alternative has been circulated around to councillors earlier today. So I'll speak to that. It's similar to the officer's recommendation but has some important changes. But I do want to note it's incredibly obvious from all the people today, all the people who've spoken, the engagement that we've had, it's incredibly obvious how much our community really cares about this issue. Our community cares deeply about the welfare of animals, not just our pets, but also stray cats and native animals as well. What this alternative motion does is it strikes a balance between protecting our wildlife and protecting cats. So what it proposes is, after a prolonged lead-in period of community education, it introduces an overnight curfew alongside a grandfathered 24-hour curfew that will only apply to new cat registrations. What this means is that if you already have a cat, they will only be mandated to stay indoors overnight or contained overnight. Though, of course, anyone can choose to keep their cats indoors, as I do with my 3 rescued cats, Curie, Jarvis, who was a stray colony cat, and Alfie, who I actually adopted from one of the speakers earlier tonight. This provides flexibility for those residents who might have older cats who they're worried might not be able to transition to 24-hour containment. And what it does for residents who are welcoming new cats into their family is they'll be given information and support on how to keep their cats healthy and happy at home while contained on their property. Support will be provided to them, which includes a grant program designed to support low-income residents, including renters, to help them contain their cats. Our approach to enforcement won't be a punitive one. When cats are found roaming when they shouldn't be, our officers will return them directly back to their homes wherever possible and provide education and support to owners before even considering enforcement. This will happen alongside a ramping up of our very successful cat desexing and vaccination program with a focus on desexing and rehoming unowned community cats. Speakers earlier tonight highlighted just how important these community desexing programs are. And the great thing is that it doesn't have to be an either or. We can act to desex and rehome stray and semi-owned cats, whilst also caring for pet cats and wildlife by keeping cats contained. We can and we should do both. Implementing a cat curfew actually makes it a lot easier for us to identify which cats are unowned cats and which ones are lost cats as well, and to return those lost cats home. At the moment, when you see a cat on the street, you don't know whether it's lost, a stray cat, or just a neighbourhood cat out for a stroll. Just like what we see with dogs, because they have to be contained, when you see a dog out on its own, most people take action to ensure that they're reunited with their families, or in the case of stray dogs in Merri-bek, they're cared for and put up for adoption. Research shows that cat containment is better for cats. They live up to 10 years longer when contained. It's better for our wildlife, with millions of native birds, mammals and reptiles killed every year by pet cats. And it's fairer. It brings expectations for cat ownership in line with our expectations for other pets like dogs. There are no other animals that we have that are allowed to roam uncontained with the same impact on our wildlife. As someone who absolutely adores cats, I've had them my entire life, and also adores our native wildlife, I urge all councillors to support this alternative motion.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. Councillor Iwasaki.
Thank you. I'm a scientist who spent over a decade working in ecology and invasive species management. And the science is clear. Cats, both feral and roaming, have a devastating impact on our native Australian wildlife. I understand that this is a heated topic, and I acknowledge there's a lot of anxiety and fear. But I would like to note that this is not the first curfew in Australia or even Victoria. Already, a majority of Victorian councils representing a cross-section of the entire political spectrum have enacted cat containment policies, with more coming. And when I walk around Brunswick at night, I see many roaming cats that I know are not feral. I know they're not feral because I'm a crazy cat lady, and I like to give them pets and chat with them, like I'm sure some of us in the gallery do, especially our community's beloved cat, Prince, who lives in Orient Grove. And if any of you stay here until the end of the meeting, I promise I will show you 47 videos of my cat playing fetch, because I'm so proud of her little smooth brain. And so the animal management plan tonight we have is not about blame or punishment. It's about balance and care. By adopting this plan, we're not only protecting wildlife, we're protecting cats themselves. Indoor and nighttime containment leads to years of longer lives. I have rescued a cat this year of somebody who was in the gallery protesting cat containment 2 years ago. It had almost died after being on the streets for 6 weeks. And these policies can save hundreds of dollars in vet bills. It reduces unwanted roaming in residents' yards. And I think that's really important to note that with all this talk about cats, over 90% of Merri-bek do not own cats, and their rights must also be considered. Their rights to peace on their property and in their own gardens. So in that regard, the amendments before us make this approach fair, evidence-based, and compassionate, starting with night curfews, grandfathering exemptions for currently registered cats, supporting research partnerships, and with review points to guide us along the way. It acts to consider both feral and roaming cats, which are not mutually exclusive, to care about. It also makes provisions for and acknowledges that people may have difficulty with cats who have grown used to being indoors. And we take special interest in that and finding equitable solutions. This is a responsible science-led path forward that takes into account both care for animals, the rights of all of our residents, and our duty to protect the living systems that we share the city with. So if you boo, you get to watch cat videos.
Thank you, Councillor Iwasaki. Is there a councillor speaking in opposition? Councillor Bolton.
If cat curfews worked and were humane, I would support them. And they sound simple, but they're not. I agree with education and assistance to try and help people voluntarily contain their cats. And there are many, many people who do contain their cats. But I'm opposed to a cat curfew being mandatory. The problem with the recommendation for a curfew is that the two major elements of the cat management aspect of the domestic animal management plan that's before us work against each other. So on one hand, the council is proposing that we do free desexing and try to persuade people to adopt the semi-owned cats that they might be feeding. On the other hand, the council is proposing cat curfew. Even the modified one that Councillor Svensson's put forward will result in hardship. In fact, I can predict that people will stop adopting anything other than kittens from the shelters, leaving a problem with the older cats. And one of the problems is you have to understand what it's like working for animal management officers working in disadvantaged communities where there's no facilities to be able to keep a cat inside, maybe a large family in a small flat, no fly screens, no nothing, and the kids are letting cats out all of the time. Or someone in a bungalow, a one-room bungalow with a disability who has to enter the main house multiple times a day to get food but can't possibly juggle everything, and someone with a disability. It's a real example. The problem with, so basically, if you persuade someone to get their cat desexed and then there's the threat of a curfew, I know we've been told it will be operated in a compassionate way, but as soon as a law is on the books, it can be dragged out. Different council officers will be more sympathetic, less sympathetic. Basically, we're introducing a policy where the council officers tell us there's no evidence that cat curfews work or don't work. There's no evidence either way that they work to reduce predation of wildlife. I'm talking about pet cats because semi-owned and unowned cats aren't affected by the curfew. We've also, what will happen is people who are financially on the edge but don't have a healthcare card can't afford cat containment options. It's not just people on a healthcare card. So if people can't comply with a curfew, even new registrations, people might adopt a cat not realising it can't hack being inside. It gets depressed by being inside all the time. So people will either let the cat go wild to become a stray cat, relinquish it to a shelter, give it to someone in a council area without a curfew, or risk it that no one traps it or kills it. Now, we also know Merri-bek only has, I'll finish on this one point, Merri-bek only has 2 animal management officers and 1 animal collection officer. That means council will be relying on residents to do the enforcing by getting cat traps to trap cats, and it might not be in a very humane way.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Aboud.
I forgot to say I've got a foreshadowed motion.
Okay, I'll take that on notice. You've got a foreshadowed motion. Thank you, Councillor Bolton.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councillor Bolton's comments about the 24-hour curfews, which is why I feel more comfortable about the overnight curfew, which is the position that I took with the draft being released. And since the draft was released, I've attended lots of conversations with the different stakeholders that are passionate about this particular subject. I'm dog people, but my sister is a crazy cat lady and always has been. Her cats are indoor cats. She's been involved, I mean, she might know some of you people, I'm not sure, but she's been involved in helping to rehouse, cats, and she's very well versed in the stuff that you all know about how you introduce a new cat to established cats and, like what it takes to actually help a cat to get a new environment ultimately. So I do understand that this won't necessarily be straightforward, but I think there are ways to coax a cat inside overnight, and that's why I'm happy with that particular course of action in this case. And the reason I'm even supporting that is because, like we heard from Helen and Maureen, sometimes the state government has an objective and it's on to council to deliver that objective, and other times the state government is delivering something and we have a voice in that conversation. Now, the problem in this case for us is that the state government's cat management strategy in its themes identifies, and I'm reading because I don't want to get it wrong, that it identifies the goal of protecting the environment and nature and native wildlife from the negative impact of cats, right? So this is the canary in the coal mine. If we had have known that activity planning, that activity work was coming earlier, we could have told you earlier. We know that the state government wants cats under control. So from my perspective, considering we're tasked with the job of delivering, and not just us, but all LGAs are tasked with the job of delivering outcomes and the domestic animal management plan, and it's dogs as well as cats. This is notification that the state wants your cats inside as well. So this is an opportunity for us to do it in what I think is a realistic way, to almost give you forewarning that nighttime initially, it's not going to be the kind of scenario where there's a crossing supervisor to hustle all the cats inside and everyone gets a fine. This is a different kind of scenario. It's about teaching us to change our behaviour. But in the meantime, it's important to acknowledge, and you all know this, cat trapping is already happening, and that our data tells us that requests for cat traps are higher than they've ever been. So it probably is a very good idea to get cats in, cats owned, cats desexed, colonies broken down, like all of that stuff is actually probably a good idea for the cats, and I don't want to bang on about some of the stuff that's already been said and probably will be said, but I do think that this idea of the overnight curfew is the best way that we can try and deal with the domestic animal management plan from our perspective on behalf of the ideals that the state government is setting.
Thank you, Councillor Bood. Councillor Yildiz.
Thanks. I'll be very quick. Just a couple of things. I want to make it clear. People might say, oh, you don't care about protecting wildlife. That's not the case. This proposed curfew, even though it's not 24 hours, is still a curfew. It's not the way to do it. I don't think we should be going down the curfew path. It's symbolic. I think it's really unenforceable, and it punishes the wrong people. It really does. The facts are clear. Most owned cats in Merri-bek are already desexed. They're microchipped, and they're kept indoors at night. The real issue is stray and semi-owned cats, and this policy doesn't do much to really address that. If in the official survey a majority, 44.8% voted for no curfew, 37.9% voted at the time for a 24-hour curfew, but 17.5% wanted a night curfew. Now, so if you think about it, the majority of residents don't want any curfew, and we should respect that democratic outcome. The countless messages, the countless text messages, and what's really, really sad is some of the comments that were made on social media about cats being suddenly, mysteriously disappearing, really, really borders on threats. That's highly inappropriate. And the countless messages that we've received I think people are getting really sick and tired of us meddling in what people can and can't do as in their homes now. And personal liberties, I think, are being gradually attacked. I think most residents have had enough. And if you think about a resident before mentioned Banyule Council, they didn't rely on a curfew. They funded a targeted de-sexing and education program, and what they found was that the cat intakes dropped by 66% and euthanasia dropped by 82%. That's what really works. That's a council that had smart evidence-based policies. Meanwhile, councils that introduced curfews reported higher complaints, they reported impoundments, and they reported euthanasia, not less. Just in concluding, the biggest issue here is this: how are we going to enforce this? Councillor Bolton mentioned 2 officers. So we're going to have officers roaming the streets and then saying to residents, your cat should be in the lounge room. Why is it out? I mean, it's not realistic, and it's a waste of money. It unfairly impacts on renters, pensioners, low-income families who can't afford to retrofit their entire home to build cat enclosures. It risks forcing people to surrender pets they love, increasing shelter pressure and euthanasia. Exactly the opposite of what we're really trying to do. So it's not that I don't care about wildlife. I want measures that actually work, not another unforeseeable feel-good rule. Let's be evidence-based, let's be transparent, and show some logic, fairness, and respect for people's personal freedoms.
Thank you, Councillor Yildiz. Councillor Irvin.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I want to thank the officers for the work that's gone into the domestic animal management plan. It's been so much effort to develop proactive solutions to managing our domestic animals and to respond to community feedback on the draft. There's a lot to commend in this final version of the plan that we are adopting tonight, and I am going to speak to the main item that's kind of on everyone's mind, which is the introduction of the cat containment. And as other people have mentioned, we've heard support on this item, we've heard opposition to this, and I think it's really important to acknowledge that there are strong feelings on both sides. And our job in these sorts of cases as councillors is to really zoom out from that and make decisions for the best interest of the entire community, including future generations. There are 2 things in common with what we heard, whether you're in support or oppose this. Firstly, people care about wildlife in our city and want to ensure that we're applying the best methods for protecting wildlife. And secondly, people care about their cats and want to ensure that cat welfare is being considered. Everyone wants an outcome where those 2 things are achieved. I think we just disagree on the detail of how to get there. No cat owner enjoys seeing their cat kill wildlife. As an example, my sister and her housemates years ago owned a cat who was allowed to roam during the day. And one day they came home to find their sweet fluffy kitty with a feather caught in its whisker. And when they entered the house, they found the hallway just covered in feathers because the cat had killed a little spotted dove. It was super distressing for my sister to have to clean up that mess while also trying not to think about that bird's final moments. Now, spotted doves are not rare or endangered, but they are a species that has found a niche in our cities, and they deserve to be able to live their lives without being killed by our pets. But as I mentioned, this isn't just about wildlife. It's also about cat welfare, which we all want to improve. Indoor-only cats live longer and have lower vet bills. They're at lower risk of attacks from other animals and from being hit by cars. And sadly, my sister's cat is an example of this as well. One day she came home very sick and the vet couldn't identify the issue. It seemed she'd either eaten something toxic or been bitten by something. Either way, something outside the home ended up killing her. What is before us in this alternative motion is a practical way to protect our wildlife, protect our cats, and provide a transition for owners and cats. I want to thank my fellow councillors for approaching this issue in a spirit of curiosity and collaboration to achieve this balanced approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Are there any councillors? Councillor Politis.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say two things really quickly. And one is on the subject of evidence. I've heard arguments both sides of the fence. I've looked at the evidence, and from what I can see, there's insufficient evidence on either side to support arguments either way. We do have some examples of councils who have implemented these measures, and what I'd really like to do is have the opportunity to take a closer look at how effective their measures have been and also the cost of it. Because what we do know is that we can pass these bylaws, but it is the cost of compliance that is incredibly expensive, and we don't know, because we don't have the evidence, how effective these measures have been. The last thing I want to say is I do want to thank the officers for their work. It's been an incredible amount of work, and I also do want to acknowledge the work that's gone into the motion that Councillor Svensson has put forward. I thought it was very creative, and there's a lot of work that's gone into it. But once again, I think it would be pretty hard to enforce and very, very expensive. And I go back to the issue of evidence, and I don't think there is sufficient evidence there to support cat curfews at this stage.
Thank you, Councillor Politis. Are there any further speakers? Yeah, I might just briefly speak. Yeah, thank you. So I'd like to thank the people in the gallery that have attended tonight and those people that have taken the time to write in. It's a issue that affects a lot of people, and a lot of people are passionate about this particular issue. And I think when we're talking about animal welfare, as Councillor Irvin said, it is about cat welfare, as well as getting a balancing act right. And the question for me comes down to whether a legally enforceable curfew is the right way forward. And from my perspective as a pet owner, and I've had pets ever since I was a child, mandating a curfew is not the right way forward. What it comes down to, for me, what it comes down to as being a responsible pet owner is council-supported de-sexing programs, support for the volunteers and the organisations that put so much time and effort, their own money and their own compassion into supporting our loved pets, funding for those organisations, and also de-sexing programs and education, how to be a responsible pet owner. It's not about mandating curfews and implementing laws. This is not where council should be looking. Council should be looking at education. Council should be looking at support and de-sexing programs. That's where the evidence lies conclusively for me. That's where the numbers lie conclusively, and that's where my vote will be tonight. I'm not going to support a curfew. And I'll turn to Councillor Svensson to close the debate. Thank you, Councillor Svensson.
Thank you. I do want to echo Councillor Davidson's comments about thanking everybody for being involved. Anyone who's had anything much to do with council knows that it can be really bloody difficult to get people interested in what's going on with council. It can be really hard to get people to engage. Back in 2022, when we did an engagement specifically just about cat curfews, it was actually one of our biggest engagements we've ever had close to 2,000 people. So we know that people care, but we also know that people are kind of getting a bit sick of being asked about it, because every engagement that we've done since, we've struggled to get anywhere near those numbers. in the 2022 engagement that we did, we had close to 2,000 responses, and the overwhelming majority in that case was in support of a 24-hour cat curfew. We've seen 2 smaller engagements since, with the next engagement had, once again, majority support for a 24-hour cat curfew, and you've heard about the recent engagement as well. So we're hearing that we've got decreasing returns of people who are engaging, because I think people really want to see action being taken on this issue. I think the community are sick of being asked, of giving their opinion, and then council not acting with that information. So I think we really need to take that into account. And the results that we're seeing overall, when you look at all of those consultations, are mirrored in the high quality research that's been done across Victoria, across Australia, about people wanting cat containment. I also want to touch on some of the things that have been mentioned so far. People have talked about the Banyule approach. The Banyule approach sounds absolutely bloody fantastic, and that's why we based our community desexing approach off of Banyule's approach. We've desexed close to 1,000 cats through this low and no cost desexing program, and we're looking to ramp that up further in this stamp. So wholeheartedly agree with those comments. We can and should and will be doing more of that. We've heard people say that it's going to cost a hell of a lot, that there's going to be increases in impoundments, and we don't know what's happening at other councils. But that's not actually true. We've spoken to a council very close by in Whittlesea, just to the northeast of us, who have implemented a 24-hour curfew, and they have seen no significant increase in costs. They've seen no significant increase in impoundments, and what they've actually seen is a significant decrease in nuisance cat complaints. The exact sort of results that you want to be seeing. So we don't have high quality research studies yet, and that's part of the reason that this alternative motion that I'm proposing has us partnering with researchers so that we can conclusively say that what we're doing is or isn't working, so we can start building that evidence base. So hopefully we can stop having an argument where we go, we don't know what the evidence is one way or the other. We can help build that evidence base, because we do know where there's evidence, and the evidence says that cats kill wildlife. And let's try and figure out a way to address that. Let's partner with researchers. This proposal also reviews the program, so there's opportunities to change things. If parts of the programs aren't working, it reviews it at 12 months and 24 months after implementation.
If you could wind up, Councillor Svensson, please.
So I just want us to think about the fact that, as Councillor Irvin said, we have a responsibility to zoom out and think about what's best for the community, what's best for our residents, what's best for the parts of our community who can't advocate for themselves, the wildlife, the animals. I urge you to all think about that.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. Now I will put Councillor Svensson's amendment to the vote. In the event that that is not successful, I note that Councillor Bolton had an alternative foreshadowed. So all those in favour of Councillor Svensson's amendment? All those against? I declare that carried. Yes, sure. So all those in favour of Councillor Svensson's amendment, so we have Councillor Kat Theodosis, Councillor Svensson, Councillor Abood, Councillor Irvin, Councillor Iwasaki, Councillor Pulford. All those against Councillor Svensson's amendment, Councillor Yildiz, Councillor Davidson, Councillor Politis and Councillor Bolton. And Councillor Miles was an abstention. Thank you. We'll now move on to the next report in the agenda, which is 7.2, Melbourne Water Storm Water Flood Map, Council submission. Is there a councillor who wishes to move this report? Councillor Miles, thank you, Councillor Miles. And a councillor to second? Councillor Irvin.
Yeah. We going or we
Yeah.
go?
Yes, keep going.
Yeah, okay. So this is just a really important report that's come in because we have a lot of places now where we got quorum.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, I'll just
we
keep
shouldn't be
talking.
getting up and moving around
Okay.
unless there's a formal adjournment.
Oh.
Councillor Yildiz, are you... Okay, that's fine. Keep going. We've got
Okay.
quorum. Yep.
You still got
Yep.
it? Okay.
Keep going.
This is just a report, our submission, a council submission about the the stormwater floods that we're going to have in Merri-bek. As we know, climate's changing, we're going to have more floods, so it's very important that we stay on top of what's going on, and I'm very happy to bring this on to council.
Thank you. And Councillor, thank you for seconding. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just sort of quickly to add, Council has done a lot of work recently on updating our mapping for drains that fall under Council's management, and this is now Melbourne Water taking the next step and going through that same process for its drains. So you can, I believe, still go online and make submissions yourself. I think in particular they're looking for sort of historical sort of stories from the history about areas that have flooded. You know, maybe you have stories from your grandmother speaking about her street flooding a long time ago, and that really helps them build up a picture of where in our city is subject to flooding and inundation. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Are there any further speakers on this report? No, if there's no further speakers, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. We'll move on to 7.3, Amendment C235 Merri-bek Revised Public Open Space Contribution Rate for the Planning Scheme Gateway 2. Councillor Pulford to move and Councillor Bolton to second. Please go ahead, Councillor Pulford.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the next step in us getting a new open space contribution scheme for our city. This program allows us to basically tax developers when land in our community is subdivided and therefore our community becomes more dense. We get to tax developers and put that into a pool of money that we can use to upgrade our existing parks, or more importantly, build new parks. So our current open space contribution scheme has helped fund, I think we're up to almost 9 parks that we've created since 2017, since we had our park close to home strategy, which is an amazing achievement by council. And I think we're all very proud of the work that council does in creating new open and green space in our community. So this decision tonight is putting forward to state government for approval our want to be able to charge 8.68%, I think, on properties subdivided in our community, which would then bring that money into that public parks and recreation land fund, I think it's called. So yeah, this is a big process that we're undertaking. It's the second step in that process. We now need it to go to state government consideration. We hope that they approve it. They approved a new open space contribution for the city of Yarra in recent years, and we've learnt a lot through Yarra's experience of going through that process. And yeah, really hoping that this continues to progress, and the end result should be that we have more money to be able to create more parks in our densifying city, which is incredibly important for people's health and well-being, for social connection, for cooling our city, for creating space for wildlife, you know, all the reasons why we love our parks. So very happy to speak to this, and thank you, officers, for progressing this.
Thank you, Councillor Pulford. Councillor Bolton.
Just a couple of things. Councillor Pulford said most things. I mean, basically, Merri-bek is going to have tens of thousands of people move into Merri-bek. So this is a really important decision to try and increase the public open space contribution rate. It hasn't been changed or increased for over 10 years, and there's been a massive amount of development that's happened in that time as well. But also just to note that the new development form of build to rent, which is increasing in our city and in Australia, does not have to pay the public open space contribution. And the reason why is public open space contributions are based on the Subdivisions Act from 1988, which allows councils to charge a contribution to developers for open space. Because the build-to-rent model doesn't subdivide into separate owners, they get to escape scot-free. So council has written to the state government. I don't know if state government is looking at this, but there needs to be a lot more pressure on the state government, because there are more and more of these developments that are getting away scot-free, and really they should be forced to pay the same sort of public open space levy that other developers will be forced to pay once this amendment is through.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Miles.
Yeah, I think everyone's made some really, really good points about how important open spaces are. If we look at the way in which cities are changing, if you look at, in Brunswick, and so many apartments being built, and young kids just don't have backyards. I was so lucky to have a massive backyard as a kid. Our future sporting stars need somewhere to start enjoying, loving sport. You hear so many international cricketers talk about when they first played cricket was playing backyard cricket with their brothers and sisters. So this is not just about, I mean, I'm not dismissing the benefits of the environment and mental health for everyone, but doing this is going to help produce our next great cricketers, footballers, AFL, everything. And that's why it's so important, because the opportunity to play sport and to love sport shouldn't just be to those people who are either wealthy enough to have a backyard or they live outside of the inner Melbourne. So this is so very important for our future athletes.
Thanks very much, Councillor Miles. Councillor Politis.
I'd just like to add one more wee point to that. I think it's really important to consider where will the children play, and it's one of the first questions that I ask myself every time I see development. So this contribution is going to be very important towards that.
Thank you, Councillor Politis. Are there any further speakers? If there's no further speakers, I'll put the report to the vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. And we'll move on to the proposed sale of council land for 10 Morrill Street, Glenroy. Is there a councillor to move? Councillor Miles, and a councillor to second. Councillor Politis. Councillor Miles.
Yes, so a lot of this work was done prior to, a lot of us being elected to council, but a lot of this land was to be sold to help fund the Glenroy Hub, which is an absolute jewel of the north of Merri-bek. It is so important what the Glenroy Hub's become. And look, I am a big fan of hanging on to property and doing what you can, but I understand that this money has been earmarked, or was earmarked to go into paying for the hub. And I know that we had some consultation with people who said you should hang on to it and do this and do that, but council's got a budget, we've got to stick to that budget, and the sale of this land, you can already see what sale of this land's done. So this is the way to go.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Councillor Politis.
This also predates me, but I was very impressed with the work that the officers have done to explore and examine if there were any other alternative uses for the land. I'm also not in favour of selling off land, but in this case, hanging on to it would have been prohibitively expensive, and I think we've got so many other major projects that we need to fund. I think some very, very good work and very thorough work has been done in respect to this parcel of land, and I support the recommendation that it's time to sell it and get on with the business of putting the funds into other projects.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Booth.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to use this particular item as an opportunity to draw attention to the significant tree register, because part of the submissions that were made about the sale of this location talked about a giant golden elm that is there, which is on the significant tree register. And I just think it's important that we do acknowledge that register and encourage people to try and get trees registered to it. This time of year for me is the time of year that I notice the first Australian Christmas tree, which are the magnificent Grevillea robusta that have golden flowers on them. And there's one just down there in what will be the health hub. So that tree's probably days are numbered as well. But I just think it's important that we consider the life of trees.
Thank you very much, Councillor Abood. Councillor Bolton.
I was part of the decision about the funding for the community, for the Glenroy Community Hub, and I know there has been investigation on council about alternative uses of the site, mainly in terms of looking at questions of affordable housing. Could the Glenroy Men's Shed go there, and some other options. And I was part of the original decision making, but I think I've come to the conclusion that I'm going to vote against the sale of the site for council to keep it in its hands, because I think it is in a central location in Glenroy. Like, it's not right in the shopping centre, but it's very close to the train station. It's close to the council complex, which has Merri Health and Glenroy Neighbourhood House and the community hall and so forth. I feel that it is, Glenroy is going to become a major activity centre. It already is quite a major activity centre. So I think I've switched to opposing the sale of this site.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Iwasaki.
I just want to, actually just speak in support of selling it. I really agree with a lot of Councillor Bolton's points, and if we didn't just buy some land on Sydney Road, actually, I'd be less inclined to support selling off council land. But I know that we do use these proceeds to also get land back into council hands. So on balance, I think if we had more concrete plans, and if there wasn't a process already for this, I would have more reservations. I think Councillor Miles spoke, I think, best that I agree with. So happy to support this, but also with those reservations, similar to Councillor Bolton. But again, very much looking forward to our new land on Sydney Road being turned into a park.
Thank you very much, Councillor Iwasaki. Are there any further speakers? If not, I'll put the report to the vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. That's okay. All right, we can call let's. Okay. All right. So all those in favour? Jay's persuasive arguments. And so that's in favour. Councillor Yildiz, Councillor Theodosis, Councillor Svensson, Councillor Miles, Councillor Davidson, Councillor Abood, Councillor Irvin, Councillor Iwasaki, Councillor Politis, Councillor Pulford, and all those against, Councillor Bolton. Thank you. Next up, we have 7.5, investigation into urban agroforestry trial, response to the notice of motion. And Councillor Abood is on her feet, and Councillor Iwasaki to second.
Unfortunately, my computer's died, but I'm just old enough to not trust the computer, so I do have some notes. Having said that, I nearly just tipped that cup of water into the electrical panel that doesn't work down there. This is an interesting lesson for me in submitting a notice of motion like a developer. So you want 14 stories, but you'd settle for 9, and I've ended up with about 10, so I'm quite happy. It was quite aspirational, and I really love the energy that the people involved have put into fleshing out exactly what I meant and what I was trying to achieve, and also want to pay particular attention to the outcome that matters most for me, which is that we have, quote unquote, developed a circular economy for urban wood within existing operations. So what that means is that if a big tree falls over or needs to come down within the city, now instead of it just being chipped without contemplation, what we're doing is finding ways that we can have a look at the tree and work out ways to use at least the very big barrel in different ways. And there is an example of this, what's that park in Brunswick where that big giant tree came down? There's a Fleming Park gum tree that people will know about if they follow what happens to trees. And now a great big section of it has been placed ultimately as a table in Tate Reserve. It's been the victim of some abhorrent graffiti, but that was cleaned up quite quickly. But the point is that we're now looking at trees differently in the city so that we can treat them in a more holistic way and help them have, you know, a longer life even after they're not in the ground anymore, which was part of the intention of the notice of motion.
Thank you, Councillor Abood.
I don't need to say too much. I think Councillor Abood covered most of it, and just really strongly in support of strengthening all of our park tree programs and enhancing our corridors for wildlife, and really appreciate the thought that went into that.
Thank you, Councillor Saki. If there's no further speakers, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. At 7.5, we have the investigation. Oh, sorry, 7.6, we have the draft public art policy. Councillor Abood and Councillor Theodosis to second. Thank you, Councillor Abood.
Thank you. So this is comes out of the fact that our art strategy identified as one of its goals this piece about the way that we procure and support public art, and the draft public art policy is what we're looking at here. I think that what it highlights to me, though, is that there's a lot to do in the art strategy. It doesn't get quite as much attention as maybe it could, and I think that it will be something that is deeply valuable, especially considering the calibre of the paintings that we're seeing in the city. But I do think that more needs to be done to support the people who are developing those pieces of work, so that they are not doing a phrase that I was heard today, which is something like scrimping, which basically means, sure, you create an incredible piece of work and you might get a pretty sum of money for it, but the rest of the time that you're being an artist, you're not necessarily being paid in a conventional sense, like many of us do. So I think that this is a fantastic step in the right direction, but I do want to also acknowledge there is a lot more to do for the whole community in the way that we support and recognise the arts.
Thank you, Councillor Abood. Now, Councillor Theodosis.
Thank you. I'm happy to second this report. I think art really brings us together. It's a way to also celebrate our diversity. And I think this policy is really great. It's ensuring sustained financial investment and strategic planning for our public art, and creating meaningful employment and professional development opportunities. Public art helps give our city character and beauty, and Merri-bek is home to so many amazing and talented artists. And we know that art can be a really hard profession to maintain because of financial pressures. Artists of all backgrounds do struggle to make a living off of it. And I think by supporting public art as a council, we're making sure that the creation of art isn't just reserved for those that can afford it. It means that people from working and diverse backgrounds can also engage in art. And when you get more diversity in art, you encourage more voices to be heard.
Thank you, Councillor Theodosis. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Irvin.
Just to quickly say that this is, at this stage, a draft policy, so it is going out for public exhibition, and so I'd encourage everyone to have your say, and as we've seen, that sort of leads to better and brighter policies that we develop. So yes, I encourage feedback from everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pulford.
So I just talked about a part that hasn't been addressed, and this report also reports back to council from a notice of motion that the last term of council passed last year, looking at how we as a council can increase support for the arts and artists in our community. So the development of a public art policy was one avenue, and that's obviously being progressed here. We've heard that from our community through the art strategy consultation that we did. But this report also looked at whether council should set up a philanthropic fund to help support the arts in our community, as well as whether there was any kind of planning scheme provisions that we could kind of force developers or big developments to include public art in their development. So there's various reasons why council is recommending that we don't proceed down those two pathways and instead, is focusing on delivering more art through this public art policy and plan. But just wanted to thank officers for their work in that area and draw community members' attention to the report.
Thank you, Councillor Pulford. If there's no further speakers, I'll put Councillor Bolton.
Councillor Bood mentioned something when she was speaking in the beginning about the fact that there's not enough attention made to the public art policy and public art in Merri-bek. And I think, that can be a bit of an issue across Australia and in all aspects of arts. And I think we should really use the consultation period, councillors as well as the community, to try and think about how to raise attention and knowledge and about public art and appreciate. So I think that's something we should really try and think about during this consultation period.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. If there's no further speakers, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour, I declare that carried. We next have 7.7, Open Council Resolution Report. Is there a councillor who wishes to move? Councillor Irvin and Councillor Iwasaki to second. Councillor Irvin.
Yes, this is sort of a regular report that comes back to us that just gives an update on all of our open council resolutions. So these are resolutions that come from notices of motion or petitions or council reports, and it just shows their status and any progress that's been made to achieving those. It's a really good read if there's something that's come up in the last few months that you want to, you haven't heard back about it yet. It's good to kind of check in and see where that's up to. And yes, it's just a really useful update to have. So thank you, officers, for putting this together.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Councillor Iwasaki.
And the most exciting thing in here is that next year we'll be looking at organizing a community forum and workshop to develop community participation for establishing a pollinator corridor across Merri-bek. And I know that that is everybody's favorite thing.
Thank you, Councillor Iwasaki. If there's no further speakers on this report, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, I declare that carried. Next up we have 7.8, 2025 to 2026, first quarter financial report. Is there a councillor who wishes to move this report? Councillor Irvin, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Svensson, thank you.
So this is another report that comes to us on a regular basis, and it's just sort of giving an update on the finances of council. And it's really pleasing to see that we are in a healthy financial position. I think one of the main things I sort of take away from this report is that this gives us the ability to be adaptable and respond to sort of things that we hear from the community and sort of changes in our own procurement processes. So in this case, we're bringing forward some funding to look at the Coburg basketball feasibility study, which we've heard a lot from the community about recently, and also to fund some additional expenditure relating to our upgrade to our customer service software, which will be a really major change coming to council and hopefully massively improving our processes in the coming years. And so it's sort of good to read through this and see what projects are coming up, what's been completed, and how we're tracking on a financial basis on those.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Councillor Svensson, do you wish to add anything further? Councillor Abood.
I just want to draw attention to the fact that we've actually got a little bit more money than we expected to have, but also we're spending in a very sort of nimble and clever way. So, for example, in the Pentridge ward, some work that's been done at the Coburg Olympic pool, including painting and various other things, that was council money rather than the money that was given to us from the federal level, which puts us in a position to be able to have a more prosperous summer at the pool. So it's kind of like you spend money on new guttering so you don't end up flooding the backyard. It's just nimble and clever. But I also wanted to draw attention to the fact that the rates collection is tracking much as we expected it to, and very similar to how it did last year, but also to remind people that if you are in duress and you're having trouble paying your rates, you can get in touch with us to organise a payment plan, rather than cop a fine later on if you don't pay it or ignore the fact that they're due.
Great, thank you, Councillor Abood. If there's no further speakers, I'll put that report to the vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. Next up, we have 7.9, Governance Report for November 2025, the cyclical report. Is there a councillor who wishes to move this report? Councillor Irvin, thank you, and Councillor Abood to second. Go ahead, Councillor Irvin.
Yes, this is another regular report for us. Every month we get a governance report, which has a very unassuming name, but actually can contain some interesting bits and pieces. So in this case, we have some sort of minutes from one of our committees. It's also got just a record of meetings that we hold between council meetings, including briefings and sort of what was discussed and who was in attendance. And there are a few responses to questions taken on notice, and a minor update to the road management plan that was approved at last month's meeting, and some new applicants for some of our advisory committees as well. So yeah, it's another report that's sort of worth diving into just to see the updates from various aspects of council.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Councillor Abood, nothing further? Are there any further councillors that wish to speak to this report? No. In that case, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. Next we have 7.10, Contract 2025-42, Road Reconstruction, Tinning Street, Brunswick, from Garnett Street to Walter Street. Councillor Abood to move and Councillor Yildiz to second.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to congratulate Presta, who've been awarded the contract, well, or are being awarded it right now. It's important to state, I think, that Presta has been noted as delivering strong performance outcomes. I think the timing of this is important. It's beginning in the second week of January, which is less disruptive for the city, and that's important. But also a saving of about $200,000, which is also worth noting.
Thank you, Councillor Abood. Councillor Yildiz? Are there any further speakers on this report? In that case, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. And we are now on to our notices of motion. So first we have the retention of the former Coburg North TAFE site for skills innovation and job creation. And Councillor Politis?
Thank you, Mayor.
You're moving this, and is there a seconder? Councillor Theodosis. Councillor Politis, please go ahead.
Thank you. I was very keen to speak to this one. I think that this is quite an important motion for council. It is state-owned land, but it's really significant that we retain this piece for job creation, for community, as a hub for learning and for innovating. The densification of this municipality is going to demand that we have more infrastructure around learning and around job growth. And fundamentally, I think we need to encourage and enable more jobs closer to where people live. So this motion seeks that council write to the state government, and a submission has already been put to the state government, and I thank the officers for their good work. It was a very comprehensive and on-point submission. This motion also calls on council to write to the federal government seeking support for those new and emerging potential industries that site can be used for. So I am very pleased to move this motion. I think it's a critical and significant one for this municipality.
Thank you.
I'd like to move to defer it by a month. I can give the. I've got a motion which I circulated earlier.
So there's a procedural motion for a deferral.
Yeah. And maybe, do you want me to give the reason why? It will have an impact. So it is to that council defers consideration of this motion to the December meeting to enable a meeting to occur between the TAFE site stakeholders group and interested councillors and a council officer.
So we've got a procedural motion for a deferral. So I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour to defer? Sorry, I'm happy to second. Oh, is there a seconder? Councillor Aboud to second. Thank you. So I'll put the deferral motion to the vote. All those in favour to defer? All those against? Okay. The item has been deferred until next month.
Yeah. But the idea is that we'll have a meeting in between so we can get a bit more information from the community.
Yes, well, that wasn't put as a amendment, but that can be something that can be organised separately.
Yeah, okay,
yes.
alrighty, I'm totally happy to do that.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you for those in the gallery who attended for this tonight. Yes, I know. That's okay. Next up, we have 8.2, Ramadan Nights at Bronwick Street, Fawkner, 2026. Councillor Bolton.
Well, this year during Ramadan in Fawkner, a lot of people asked me about organising a community iftar in Fawkner. Unfortunately, it was towards around the middle of Ramadan, and it was just not realistic to organise something in that time frame.
And Councillor Bolton, Councillor
Yeah.
Brood to second.
Oh, sorry, I started talking to it. And so then I started talking to people who are keen to organise a Ramadan market in Fawkner and Bonwick Street in particular, for this coming year. But Ramadan is early this year. Next year it's going to be in February. So what I'm proposing is that council receives a report, because there's a spending limit on councillor notices of motion, investigating the establishment of a Ramadan Nights event that outlines operational, financial and logistical requirements for delivery of the event, considerations for holding the event on an annual basis from 2027 as a multicultural community celebration, assess the suitability of hosting the event in Bonwick Street, Fawkner during the month of Ramadan, and then outlines engagement considerations and opportunities, including council, and identify external funding opportunities. Now, part of the rationale for this is Lakemba, where I used to live in Sydney a long time ago. Since I left the suburb, moved back to Melbourne, they've introduced a massive, well, it started off small, but a Ramadan market, which is in Dandenong. After visiting the Ramadan night market in Lakemba, Dandenong councillors started to organise something similar in Dandenong. I think, there are other places you could have it, but because Fawkner has the biggest Muslim community, there's a number of eateries, which means that is a foodie spot, maybe not with yuppie foodies, but they're people who come from all over the northern suburbs, Point Cook, Thomastown, Craigieburn, for the food. And so, and there was a very popular Ramadan market just down the road in North Coburg, which is very popular as well this year. It probably would be a different kind of Ramadan market to that, because it is a different kind of community. It's more of a South Asian community. But the idea is this is not just for the Muslim community, it's for everybody. It's, and I was tested the idea with someone across the road who's not for the Muslim community, who loves the idea of this happening in Bonwick Street. So anyway, that's the proposal. Hopefully councillors support it.
Councillor Bolton. Councillor Aboud.
What is that?
Yeah.
I'll be very surprised if none of us have been to an iftar. I suspect we've all been to an iftar, and the dog can come to the next iftar. So I'm really excited by this proposal and looking forward to the report. I hope that it includes a traffic study, because that's going to be an issue, and I think even yuppies might go, Councillor Bolton.
Thank you, Councillor Councillor Abood. Are there any further speakers to Councillor Bolton's notice of motion? If there's no further speakers, I'll put Councillor Bolton's notice of motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. Thank you, Councillor Bolton. It was unanimous. Yes, we will record it. Okay, councillors, so there are no notices of rescissions. Councillors, do we have any foreshadowed items that we wish to raise? If there's no foreshadowed items, we can close the meeting to the public. Can I have a motion to close the meeting to the public? Councillor Abood and Councillor Politis to second. All those in favour? I declare that carried, and I declare...
If anyone's sticking around, we will be likely to be able to chat very soon after this.
Oh, right, okay. I declare the council meeting closed at 8:45. It's... Yeah. Yeah, are we offline? Oh, hang on.
My name's Joe.